Hello everyone. Tonight we'll be going to talk about the taxation in the Philippines, how it started, changed through history, and why it matters in our everyday lives. So, you have probably heard about people complain about taxes, but have you ever wondered how these taxes shaped the country and connects to what is happening around us? So you're gonna figure it out through our discussion, which will be going to anchored on this concept map, which we will systematically break down for clarity and understanding. So to start with, taxation as cornerstone of governance has shaped and supported economies across eras. So if you can see in the concept map, we have six eras there. So for each eras, we'll start by looking at the methods. So it means how taxes were collected and implemented during specific time periods. So in this case, it will give us a clear view of the patterns or systems used. And then from there, we'll move to the effects and usage. So for the first period would be the pre-colonial era. So in the pre-colonial times, taxation was a community effort where people um, gave their buwis or offerings to support their leaders. So back then, taxation wasn't that formal as we know it today. So people contributed through goods or services, or what they called as buwis. So in that sense, we can say that this era was less about money and more about helping the community thrive. And we can also parallel it today in modern times on the how indigenous group still rely on non-monetary contributions. So, example, the banquet schools for indigenous youth in conflict areas often operate on donations, not formal taxes. So, by that, it shows how the spirit of communal support still persists even without structured systems. So, fast forward to the Spanish period. So, Spanish period. So, in this era, muna na siya gitawag og colonial tax system. So, when the tributo system emerged, so which means tributo, which means 10 reales per person. So, this was a mandatory tax imposed on Filipinos, which placed a heavy burden on Filipinos, especially the poor. So, this created a wealth gap where the rich benefited while the poor struggled. So, which shows that it favors the powerful while burdening the underprivileged. So today, a similar issue is seen also in discussions about the progressive tax system versus the flat tax system. So for example, when you mingon getag flat tax, it would mean nga everyone will pays the same rate regardless of their income. So by that, no, some of the critics argue nga unfair na siya kay for example, mo ask ka sa usa ka tawo that earns 10,000 pesos a month to pay the same percentage as someone earning 100,000 pesos. So, this is what makes our current progressive tax system more equitable, where richer people pay higher rates. But however, napoy debates about fairness in taxation. Okay, like for example, the proposal of removal of VAT or value-added tax for basic goods, which shows that these issues still exist today. And next era would be the American era, which happened in 1898 to 1946. This era is considered the modernization period. So, nga nung nahimo naman siyang modernization period? Okay, because the methods of collection are centralized. So, centralized na siya, no? So, nagkaanam og ka-improve ang sistema sa pagkuha sa tax. So, taxation become more structured with laws like the Internal Revenue Law of 1904. So the focus shifted to linking taxes with public welfare, like funding education, infrastructure, and healthcare. So the taxes funded public services like education, health, and infrastructure, things we still rely on today. So we can also compare it today about the recent talks on budget allocations for education in 2024. So taxes are the reason why the government can fund programs like free tuition for state universities like the Cebu Normal University or distribute learning modules, especially during the COVID-19. So without taxes, public services like schools or hospitals would crumble. So that is why kita, mga normalites, we also are often called scholar ng bayan. So next would be the Japanese era that happened between 1942 to 1945. So it is also known as wartime taxation. So in Japanese era, taxation was deeply affected by war, as the war tax and Mickey Mouse money caused inflation. So inflation, which means price of goods skyrocketed, but people's money lost value. So we see something similar in this case so in like other countries like Venezuela where inflation made money almost worthless. While here in the Philippines, inflation isn't that severe compared to other countries. Still, we still feel it, no? So, for example, kana mga rising prices, if nakabantay mo sa mga basic goods like onions last year, which shows nga um, how our economic struggles impact everyone. So this is why government use taxes to stabilize economies, funding subsidies or price controls when needed. So, na po siyang nahitabo sa Japanese era. Next would be the post-war era or the 1945 which happens to 1945 to 1972 or known as the recovery period. So from the term itself, post-war. So after World War II, taxes became a tool for rebuilding the country. So na sila a Rehabilitation Finance Corporation, updated tax code system, and international aid matching. So, unsa may na epektuan ni so na yung mga what we called as rebuilt war damaged infrastructure, improved access to public services, and other things. So, this era also mirrors the global response during the COVID-19. So, ang mga gobyerno ato nga time worldwide, including ang Pilipinas, use tax revenues to fund vaccines, health services, and programs like Bayanihan to Heal as one. So, these programs are modern examples of using taxes to recover after a crisis, just as we did post-war. And lastly, would be the current system. So covering the year 1972 to present or what we know as the modern period. So today, familiar naman guro mo usually. So ang taxation has shifted to digital system. So mga kuha na kayo no, matik na kayo ron ang sistema sa pagkuha sa tax. So for example, the Bureau of Internal Revenue or the BIR now uses an e-filing or electronic systems to make tax payment easier. So na po yung mga multiple government agencies. And sa may mga epekto ani, so na yung mga economic development programs, fund social services, and reduces inequality with tax relief programs. But if nakabati mo atong mga recent push for online taxes, so na po na yung mga debates, ano no? So for example, the proposed digital services tax, which aims to tax platforms like Netflix or Spotify, na po sa mga online merchandising app like Shopee, Lazada. So, naguna na sila ang covered nga mag-tax collection pod sa kana mga online platforms. So, while this may bring additional fund, others argue still that it might hurt no small online businesses or freelancers. So, muna, this reflects how modern taxation constantly tries to balance what's fair to citizens and beneficial for the country. So, dapat timbang-timbangon na ganun siya. So, I think that's all. So, in summary, taxation, we believe that taxation isn't about paying money to the government, but it's also about sharing resources to make society better. So, magahin po ta contribution no, para sa tuang country. So, dapat namin na sa tuang core value, which is being makabansa. So, it is our way to show us being a makabansa. So, from community contributions in the pre-colonial era to digital taxes today, the systems may have changed, no? But we believe that the goal remains the same, which is building a nation that can support its people. Now, we want you to leave a thought that to make you realize that maybe taxes might seem like a burden, but they're also an investment in our future. So, mga daan nga itong gilakwan, ang mga hospital that heal us, and even ang schools nga na nato karon, they all exist because of taxes. So thank you everyone, and I hope this inspires you to see taxation in a new light.